All right, joined by Peter Malnati. We know him as most recently the winner of the Valspar Championship with his family all around. That was such a great moment. A moment really resonated with a lot of us. His son Hatcher holding him in his arms for that winner's interview. But Peter, so much has happened, so many emotions are processed. But how are you feeling right now?
You know, it's all good, man. It's all good things. It's been a whirlwind. It's been a real whirlwind. It's really cool. All the things, obviously, the most present thing right now is prepping for this little tournament next week that I've never played before, and just all that goes with that. But it's just, it has been. I would say, everyone says I felt all the emotions. Well, I haven't felt all the emotions. I've just felt all the good ones. It's been a really a crazy 10 days. There's been a lot of overwhelm, but even the overwhelm has been just all the good stuff flooding. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I mentioned, the moment with your son Hatcher and that he was in your arms for that 2 minute interview that was live. It's a moment in your life that will never, it's always going to be there. And you and Hatcher can relive it for years to come. Like, how do you feel about that when you think about that moment for you guys? What does it mean?
You know, I mean, it means so much. That was that moment when we've got this amazing still photo, and I'd love to give credit to who took it, but I don't know yet. We have this amazing still photo that's just zoomed in on him running out onto the green with his purple cape on. But that moment of having, I dreamed of that moment of having my family meet me on the last green of a tournament before I had a family. I dreamed of that moment. And when I think about, you asked, like, what does that moment mean to me? When I was there doing an interview with my son in my arms, my wife and my younger son right there, my mother was there, which is incredible. It it was, I mean, obviously anyone who saw it could see that I was emotional. It was an emotional moment for me. But even thinking about it now, I just think about how much, like, even going back to when I was a kid, like, my mom and dad, and I had two older sisters, they used to sacrifice their weekends to take me to golf tournaments. My mom and dad would, spend a lot of their money to get me to golf tournaments. Now as an adult, my wife has sacrificed her, like, any chance she has to have a professional life, which when I was playing mini tours, she was grinding to get her PhD. Like, it's not like she was, her dream wasn't to support me playing on the PGA tour. Like, she was running, and any chance that she's had to have a professional life, she sort of sacrificed to support my dream. My two boys, they don't really know yet. Hatcher is starting to. He's really starting to learn. Like, sometimes daddy leaves and he stays home, and like that's just. But they sacrifice time with their daddy so that I can go live my dream. And obviously, it's great. It's a wonderful profession. I'm able to provide for my family. But like, that moment when he was in my arms and I was doing that winner's interview, that was what I was thinking about. Was just all the sacrifices that the people around me have made for me to be able to have that moment, and to get to share it with them was, as anyone who was watching could see, completely overwhelming for me.
Hmm. Yeah, and I would just imagine like the delayed gratification, like for me, like I've been in golf journalism for, 12, 15 years. I've never been offered a full-time job in it. I've had to grind. I
Yeah,
call it the mini tours. I've been on the mini tours for
yeah,
15 years. And just the delayed gratification when big stories happen or interviews happen, like it means so much to me. It really, it's emotional. And for you, like, going 9 years without winning, like how does that feel to validate it with the Valspar win?
yeah. You know, I I talked to a lot of different. I talked to a lot of different groups of people about golf and my career. Simply, there's a few clubs here and a few golf clubs here in town that have, like, given me honorary memberships, and so I'll go and I'll do a meet and greet or sit down with some of their members and thank them. So that's one group I talked to. I'm really fortunate. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, where the University of Tennessee is. They have one of the best practice facilities I've ever seen for golf for their golf team. So I'm able to kind of piggyback off their facility and use them, but I get to mentor some of the kids who are playing golf there. So I tell them, whenever I'm telling people about, my career, my profession, I always say, I have lofty goals and lofty expectations. I I am working to be. I want to be a top 50 player in the world. I want to be playing. I want to start every year knowing that I'm playing in the major championships and all the big events that I want to play. You know, now we've got this new signature event model. Like it's a goal of mine to know that I'm playing in all those. Um, but
Right.
I always also tell people like at the end of the day, though, if I really want to get really honest with him, my number one goal each and every year is to have my job again the next year. That's it. And that is not an easy goal to meet. Like the PGA Tour is so incredibly competitive. So you know, for me to go 9 years without winning, that was 9 years of each and every single tournament was about keeping my job for the next year. Um, and now like it's not that I'm going to relax or anything like that because I obviously now have the opportunity to play some of those big events that I've always wanted to play. But I do have some security in my back pocket, and that's an amazing feeling. So during that interim 9 years between when I won the Sanderson Farms Championship back in the fall of 2015, and a week ago winning the Valspar Championship, like I always knew, I always knew that I was working toward that moment. You never know for sure if you're going to get there, but I always knew I was working toward it. And to have it come, uh, all come to real life right in front of me on a pretty magical week there in Tampa, Florida, and a very magical Sunday. It's just I don't know. I can't really describe it right now. It's still even 10 days later. I can't really describe it. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, I listened to your podcast with Billy Hurley, Living It Up podcast. Those guys do a great job, and you mentioned there that your best friend, one of your best friends, teaches high school kids, and he changes their lives, and he makes a lot less than you ever will. And you're empathetic to that. You're mentoring kids as well. I'm just curious, like for fans out there that don't know Pierre Malnati that well, what is your purpose? Like I love hearing the giving back here, but what is your purpose, man? Like how do you define it?
Yeah, my purpose starts with my family now. Of course, like I'm trying, my wife and I together. I'm trying to be my number one job in life is to be, a supportive, loving husband to my wife. Um, and a very, very close second is to be a dad who's raising two boys to be kind, empathetic, um, you know, young boys who are going to turn into to young adults who are then going to turn into adults who hopefully are going to impact the world in a positive way. And so I think that is at the end of the day I have the most awesome job in the world because I play a game that I love. But the whole point of all of it is to use the platform to to make the world, the world that I influence a little bit better. And the most powerful way, it's sometimes if you read headlines and pay attention to the news, like the world can be a pretty a daunting place. But I feel like the most powerful way that my wife and I can impact the world um, is to raise two boys who grow up to be, you know, empathetic, caring, kind human beings in the world. And so that's our number one purpose right now. And then obviously we're able to touch a slightly broader community than just our family. And so we try to have those same goals. And but yeah, that's this world. If we can share, you know, some kindness and make the world a little bit of a, you know, just a more open place. Like that's our goal, and that has to start small. It has to start with the people you touch immediately. And so that's what we try to do.
A person that's obviously huge for you and your career, and you obviously were emotional talking about Alicia, your wife. I'm curious with the Masters week, how happy are you for her to be a part of that? And, all the hours she's put in, University of Missouri, 80-hour weeks, like giving me a sense of how happy you are for her to experience that.
I'm amazingly happy, and it's kind of funny. We're sitting here. I keep saying this. I've said this on repeat. Um, I want next week to feel as close to like just a normal tournament as it can. Because I don't want to put it on a pedestal. I don't want to make it anything more than it is. I want to approach. And her response has pretty consistently been, when you're inside the ropes, it can be a normal tournament.
Right.
And I like that answer because she's right. Like let's be realistic. You know, most of the tournaments I get to play now, I've played for the last 10 years, which is an amazing thing to say. This will be, my, I've actually never been on the grounds at Augusta. So it'll be my first time, it'll be my family's first time. And, we are so pumped for all that comes with that. Like I think we're looking forward to Wednesday as much as anything about the week, the par three contest and having the family involved in that. And, it's going to be so great.
Well, let's get into never being on the grounds yet. I know that Scott Van Pelt mentioned that on a conference call here a couple days ago. He had read the Brentley Romine story on Golf Channel, and you had mentioned it was from your presser. Talking about that, like, give us a sense of like why you put Augusta off, and short until you earned it.
Yeah, it's that simple. I mean, I really like. Um, I always had, whether or not it ever happened is obviously now it's going to happen. So it's not even a question anymore. It is going to happen. It's happening in a few days. Um, I I wanted the sense of accomplishment of being on the grounds because I was playing in the tournament. And I think at some point in my life, if I'd gone another decade and had maintained a good level of success to stay on the PGA Tour, but never a level that got me into the Masters, I think I surely would have broken down and gone to see the tournament, right? I
Right.
think so. I don't think I'm that stubborn or weird, but I always did. I wanted to have this experience. I wanted my first time to be there. And if I had won a tournament last year after the Masters, I would have made my first trip to Augusta sometime before the week of the tournament. But just through the timing and the way things worked, I literally will be making my first. I'm going to get there a little earlier than I would for a usual tournament, but I mean not by much, like an extra day.
Saturday
So
or
yeah, we're gonna travel Saturday, and then depending on how the boys do with travel, now it shouldn't be a hard trip from Knoxville, Tennessee, but depending on how the boys do the travel, I may go to the course and register on Saturday, or I may make the first trip Sunday morning down Magnolia Lane.
tell me about that for a minute. We've seen all these Instagram videos of guys, first time pros, first time going down Magnolia Lane. Tell me your game plan. We got a song in the background. Who's going to be in the car? What's going on here?
Yeah, yeah. I don't even haven't planned it. It'll be. We honestly don't even know for sure our travel plans to Augusta. It's it should be a pretty short, easy drive, but we're taking quite a few people. Like we're taking a lot of family. So me and Hatcher, who he got famous at Valspar when I was holding him up, and he was the guy. Hatcher and I, we may fly to Augusta, even though it's a pretty short drive from Knoxville, just to free up some car space. So he and I may get there early, get in the courtesy car, tour town a little bit, and I don't know. I'll talk to my family and see. But maybe he and I'll just do a ceremonial first drive down Magnolia Lane together. That'd be kind of cool. But I'm no one who watched the interview where I was crying like a whatever, like hopefully like a strong empathetic man. But
A good dad, a good
um,
dad.
yeah, but no one will believe this, but I'm not that much of a sentimental kind of guy. Like I don't have any of my. I've made this is like a humble brag, but I don't mean it to be. I've made 3 hole-in-ones on tour. I don't have any of the hole-in-one balls. I give them away. Like I don't like. I'm not that like sentimental about that kind of stuff. So even though it will be incredibly special, I haven't orchestrated the trip down Magnolia Lane. The first one, we'll just take it as it comes, and it'll be sweet. I know that.
Right. How old would you have been the first time you would have like thought about wanting to go? I mean, I'd love to go to Augusta. Be it, get play it.
Um, so are you asking how old was I the first time I had this goal, or how old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when did the goal of going to the Masters come about?
Um, it's interesting. I think there's a distinction between our dreams and our goals for sure. And so the dream of going to the Masters, like that was simple. That way, I think I got my very first job. I was parking carts at Dandridge Golf Course where I grew up on the weekends, and I was probably 13. My dad had to drive me to work. I definitely couldn't drive to work. And as it got late in the day, I'd still be on the clock, but I'd sneak out to the putting green and putt. And I mean, all those 6 and 8 footers I'd be putting on the putting green. They were, tied for the lead on the last hole at the Masters, and so I mean, the dream has existed for a long time. But the goal of actually playing in Augusta, I think, when I got my first tour card back in the fall of 2013, you
Yeah.
know, at that point it seemed realistic. It was like, a great season or one great week from happening then. And so then I say it turned into more of a goal. But even at that point, it's taken me I'm in my 10th season, so nine full years on tour to realize the goal of getting there.
Mm. You mentioned, and I think about the other people, the support, right? You've talked about investors, people invested your career back when you were younger with no expectation of return. You're going to try to get all the 8 tickets a day. Give us a sense. You got a spreadsheet. Give us a sense of how this is all happening to take care of your people.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So we're spoiled on tour. Like normal tour events. I say normal tour events are incredible, all of them, like every single one. They're all incredible. So normal is not the right word to use, but our the tour events that we play, the other 40 weeks a year that we're not playing the a U.S. Open or the Masters. And all my family who wants to come to the tournament is credentialed, so they have a permanent credential. They don't need tickets. That is not the case at the Masters. The Masters, my
Right.
family needs to use tickets. So like 8 a day seems really, really generous when you think about, everyone out there who's trying to get a ticket and they're costing, 2,000, $3,000. Like 8 a day seems incredible. But like when it's like, yeah, but every family member that wants one needs one of those out of my 8.
Big time.
But it's been, I'll brag on, I've got so many people that support me. I shouldn't name anyone's name because I'm definitely going to leave some people out. But so my first job was at a place called Dandridge Golf Course, and the guy who was the manager at that course growing up, he was like, he was this tough Polish Chicago, like he had retired to Tennessee and was running this little public golf course. We had 3 9s, the red, the white, and the blue 9. And I'd walk in the clubhouse with my dad when I was like 9, and I'd say, his name was Greg Kukla, and I called him Kookster, and I'd say, Kookster, which 9 should we go to? And he'd say, go to the green 9. Like, we don't have a green 9 here. And he goes, exactly.
Love
So,
it.
but he like, I joke sometimes that he raised me because like my parents taught me all the good stuff in life, and Kookster taught me all the important stuff in life.
Stuff you're going to
But
use.
so Kookster's coming. He's coming for practice rounds. That's what he wants to do. He's coming. One of my original investors, who he was a member at the course where I worked, my second job, a place called the Country Club in Morristown, Tennessee. He, I created this whole investment like thing. People could buy a share of my career, and then I would pay him back a percentage. And by 3 years into my mini tour career, I was living with my parents, so I didn't have many expenses, but I was turning like a little profit. And so after 3 years, when I went to write checks to the investors to thank them and give back, he like looked at me like I was crazy and said, I don't want your money. I just want Masters tickets. And
Come
so
on.
his name is Don Rogers, and Don he's still a really dear friend and an awesome supporter. So he's getting his Masters tickets that he asked for. That would have been 2012 when I was trying to pay back investors, and he said, no, I want Masters tickets. So 12 years later, he's getting them. And that's really exciting. So yeah, that process, it's been, yeah, it's not something I have to do for the majority of the weeks I've played on tour. I don't have to have a spreadsheet to figure out who's getting what tickets, but it's if it's a burden, it's a burden I'll gladly undertake each year.
Yeah, well, I love with that story right there. I always love when it's credit where credit's due. Like anybody in our life, any mentors, any people that were influential. I called a sports journalist buddy of mine last night, got some advice on the Rory McIlroy podcast that I had.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I'm always calling back to mentors, and beyond that, your parents. I'm thinking about how special is this for them to experience Augusta National.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I actually got to see, my dad, he worked. I mean, he was a perfect picture of is, I guess maybe a generation ago, my parents kind of subscribed to pretty traditional gender roles, but my dad was the breadwinner. He was he worked his job, worked so hard, came home on weekends, coached baseball, coached my sister's soccer teams, did all the little projects that needed doing around the house. And then Monday morning went right back to where he would, like, that was my dad. And now he's retired from work, but he's a terrible retired person. He can't not do something. So, he worked the same job at Bush Brothers Baked Beans. He worked for 30 something years there. And then he retired. And I'm thinking, Dad, you you got a little pension, you were awesome, you did an amazing job, like come travel to some golf tournaments. Now he bought a 23-acre farm and got some cows and built a barn, and now he's running. So my dad is funny. He watches golf from home, nervous as can be, but he's like, nah, I gotta stay home. Someone's got to take care of the farm. I gotta stay home, and that's how he's always been. So I I'm not sure. I'm still trying to drag him out, but my mom's the opposite. She won't miss a shot, and that's that's really fitting because when I was a kid, my mom drove me to junior tournaments. Like, it's amazing. As a kid, you kind of take it for granted, but my mom, like, she would drive me to junior. She paid for the hotel. She paid for dinner. She paid the entry fees, and I'm finally getting to pay her back a little bit for all that. But every now and then she'll still pay for dinner when we're out and when we're somewhere on the road. And Alicia and I are like, put that away, like,
Come
stop.
on, we got this.
But it's so fun, and to be able to share that with them, and I'm really close. I have two older sisters, who are both amazing. One of my older sisters was um, a letter winner track athlete at Duke University, and she went on to get a doctorate of physical therapy. She and I were always we had sport in common growing up, and we were really close. And so, like, she's watched me, and she's a physical therapist. She's actually helped me with my health at times too. And she's watched my career and the struggles, and also the breakthroughs and the amazing. So, like, for her, I'm really thrilled. And it's just, this is all, it's going to be so cool.
Mm. Well, I think about you not being a super sentimental guy, but still the pro shop, all the gift shop. I talked to Adam Shank, and he said his first master coming up. He said he's going to get a dog collar for his dog at home. It's golden retriever. That's a priority. The first thing he's going to get for you. What are the first things you're going to get? What are you looking forward to there?
Man, I see, I haven't even thought about that. Like, the last
Come
thing we
on,
need
it's the
in this
Masters.
the last thing we need in this house are more clothes for anybody. But I'll be thinking about all the people who aren't able to make the, like, some people are getting a ticket to the Masters, and all the people who deserve one but just can't because there's not enough. I'll be thinking about those people when I'm in there, and there'll be hoodies and hats and t-shirts and all that stuff, and it'll be yeah, it'll be really, really cool to be able to share a piece of my first master's experience with so many people who helped make it a reality.
Mm. Well, and the course itself, like what parts of the course are you looking forward to kind of mapping out? But I mean, obviously, Amen Corner is so famous, but what kind of excites you there?
Yeah, I'm not a big um like, I like to keep things as simple as possible. I don't like to overthink golf courses, and so sometimes I actually think a less is more approach is good for me when it comes to prep, because, like, if I go and map every inch of a golf course in my yards book and have detailed notes about this or detailed notes about that, I just overthink and overtry. But going to Augusta for the first time, I actually did something that I normally would never do. Um, I listened to a nearly 2-hour podcast that Jeff Ogilvy did. I'm not sure when he did. It seems like it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and they were re-airing it. But he just kind of walked through all 18 holes at Augusta, and he's kind of a golf architecture geek, and he was, you know, but I feel like I've already played my first practice round having listened to that, because he was talking about how certain hole locations require certain angles and stuff like that. And the thing that I took from listening to that podcast was the fact that most golf courses you play, like a traditional golf course, you think of it as having some birdie holes and then some harder holes. And he was talking about how at Augusta it's not so much. There are, the par fives are there, and he said, but at Augusta there are birdie hole locations and then hole locations where you have to be really cautious. And that idea really resonated with me. So, I think the easy example to kind of think about is just, and this is just from watching on TV and listening to Jeff talk, but like fans can probably picture the green on 16. He said, the green on 16, you've got two hole locations that make that a birdie hole, and you've got two hole locations that make that, you know, a hole where you really need to play a wise shot and be very content to get out of there with a two putt par. And I think that makes a lot of sense. How you can kind of have, a hole that one day might be a hole where you're playing offense and a hole where the next day you might be playing defense simply based on the hole location. Um, but that really excites me about going there because, in the last 3 or 4 years, I've added tremendous amount of firepower to my game. I hit it, I can hit it. I'm not a long hitter by any means, but I'm at least average now, and I think I can hit it plenty far off the tee. And I've always had really nice touch on and around the greens. That's been a strength for me. And so I feel like with those two elements, being able to get it out there off the tee and then having good touch around the greens, why couldn't I go there and have a really good week? I'm so excited to go check out the golf course and do well on it.
Mm. If favorite masters you've watched over the years, any that really resonate with you?
Um, yeah, I I, I can't believe how easy this is for me to answer, but it is. I, in 2019, I went back to being a teenager. I just watched Tiger win the Masters, and I was a teenager again, just sitting there like
Wow.
in awe of in '97. I wasn't a golfer yet. In '97, I was the '97 Masters. I would have been not quite to my 10th birthday. My family was not a real golf family. So I did not watch Tiger win that Masters.
Right.
I always say this, and it's true. The tournament that turned me into a golfer was the 2000 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. That's when I became a golfer. That like I watched Tiger win that U.S. Open, not win, but just dominate that U.S. Open. And that was like when I said, "Oh my gosh, that's cool. I want to do that." And so I, even though the '97 Masters was so historic, I didn't watch it. And so I didn't. But in 19, um, I was how old? I mean, that was just what, 5 years
Like
ago.
30, 31.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess we were still 7 or 8 months away. I actually remember that Alicia was sick because she had terrible pregnancy. She was sick, pregnant with Hatcher. But I watched every shot on Sunday, and I think what wasn't there bad weather. They went in threesomes, and I think did
Yeah.
split tees. Um,
Right.
I watched every shot and was just a kid again, just like totally. And the crazy part is, I knew all the other guys too. Then and it's like I should have been rooting for Fran because he's my brother and I love him and he's great. But when Tiger was in, it was like, go Tiger, let's go, and like it was so crazy to see because in the 2000 at the 2000 US Open, and then for 7, 8, 9, 10 years after that, I was just in awe of his talent. That's it. In 19, it was like I was in awe of his resilience. I was in awe of his strategy. I was in awe of you know the patience and expertise with which he played that back nine. Like it was amazing. It was still an equal sense of awe, but it was an awe of different things. So I watching him win again the 2019 Masters was something that I will remember. Like that's crazy.
Mm. And just to be able to experience that Wednesday before the par three contest, you alluded to it with Hatcher, your son, Dash, Alicia. I'm sure she'll be around there. Like, how cool is that going to be?
I cannot wait for that. I have a feeling, obviously I hope the tournament produces a lot of highlights for me, and I hope I will be thinking about and remembering the tournament for years to come. I think I will remember my first par three contest, regardless of what happens in the tournament. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. And I think the age that Hatcher and Dash are right now, like Dash, you know, he's up, he's walking. He's been walking now for about 2 months, and he's in that fun stage where his steps still look awkward, but he doesn't care. He's 16 months old. He doesn't care that he looks awkward, and so he's up and going. And I think he'll be walking around. Hatcher will have a little golf bag, probably going to take his little wedge and hopefully hit a chip shot or something out there for me. Um, Alicia will be she'll be my main caddy. And we'll have some family there with cameras, and it's going to be so good.
Yeah, we've talked about your support. Your wife will wrap up here. For you though, like the overall, what does it mean? You get this chance to go to Augusta and play in your profession. This has happened.
You know what it means, Garrett? Like it really means it. It really means to me that like not not that I've made it, because I made it a long time ago. I made it to the PGA Tour and won on the PGA Tour 9 years ago. So like making it has happened, but it means that this job that I so appreciate and still so love. I love this job. I dreamed of doing it when I was a teenager. I still love it as much today, 10 years in, as I did, you know, at my first PGA Tour run. What this means is, I get to take one step up. I'm up to a new level. I'm going to play in the Masters. I'm going to play in the PGA Championship in another month. I'm going to play all the signature events for the rest of this year. I'm on the precipice of guaranteeing myself, starts in the signature events for next year. I've already earned my start. My favorite week of golf that I've ever experienced so far was Maui in 2016. I've earned the right to go back to Maui, and now I'll have my boys to go with me. It just means that a job that I really, really appreciate and really love is going to be mine for a good bit longer now, for sure. That's wrapped up, and that's what it means to me. I'm sure seeing, standing on the first tee on Thursday morning at the Masters, I can say all I want about how it's just another golf tournament. It's not going to be. I'm going to feel some pretty cool emotions. But if I zoom out and just look at it from a big picture, this means that I get to have my dream job at a slightly even higher level than I had it 3 weeks ago for the foreseeable future. And that's pretty darn cool for me and my family.
Peter, really appreciate this chat. You're a lot to look forward to, man. Really happy for you coming ahead here.
Awesome. Garrett, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.